I had a government class several years ago. In this class, we had all kinds of candid discussions revolving around the politics at the time. And Obama came up a few times. Generally speaking, nothing sordid was said. It was more the usual comments. Obama sucks, Reagan's the best. This was in Houston, by the way. I was the only black guy in the class, if that paints a better picture for you. There were a couple of comments that did stick with me, though. And they both came from the same young white woman from Cleveland, funny enough. The first thing that I heard her say was, "Obama just doesn't seem smart to me." And I remember thinking to myself, well, damn, what does Bush seem like to you? I was somewhat outspoken in that class, but I found myself remaining quiet on that one. And along with that comment, I had gone to hear criticisms of Obama's experience, criticisms of his smugness and impure motives, and that came from everybody. Fast forward to today. Our current president, Donald Trump, has unapologetically exhibited smugness and impure motive. Also, to add insult to injury, the man has zero experience governing, as opposed to just a little bit. The change of heart? Well, what are we to surmise here? What makes a person support someone, no matter what? They could be completely at odds with your core values, in this case, Christian values. They could be shown to be factually a liar. This doesn't matter. So I ask you, what does matter? Well, here's the dirty little secret that's not so much a secret. First, I will grant you this. Tons of black people supported Obama, not because they thought his policies were so spot on, but because they saw a black man, supported by many white people, married to a black woman, speaking very articulately and not going into what we black folk call white voice. They saw this man's general essence along with the fact he's black, absolutely. And they said, sounds good to me. Okay. Can we all agree that the same happened with Trump? Many white people would have voted for Trump, policies be damned. This tall, rich, blonde white man was a fresh drink of water to wash that nasty Obama taste out of their mouth. Trump University, pussy grabbing, multiple divorces, sexual scandals, it doesn't matter. I mentioned at the beginning that young white woman from Cleveland said a couple of comments that stuck with me. The other one was, she said in reference to why she moved from Cleveland, it was getting kind of dark up there. Implying that black people were coming in by the dozen. Now, this is one of my more shameful moments as a human being. I swear, several people immediately looked at me. And it was before I had become extremely comfortable publicly responding to such remarks. I hadn't yet found my mojo. I vaguely remember my reaction to be just shaking my head and seeming baffled. For real, it caught me all the way off guard. She knew I was sitting behind her, but a suggestion that black people were the plague from which she ran didn't show up on her inappropriate radar. Or at least, I was a benign enough black guy where she knew she could comfortably make such a statement, and she was right. Again, this was in Houston, so don't be surprised either by the fact her white peers said nothing of reproach to her. And the thing is, I'm not some denier of black crime. If it's fact, it's fact. Many black areas are laden with crime. Here's where, though, the divide comes in. The big reason why that crime exists in such excess, and the big reason why she hated Obama, are not discussed with any amount of honesty. I submit, the reason behind her inability to do this is also the reason behind the divide. And it's a boring answer. It's a very boring answer. And here's what it is. Even though there is great complexity to us as human beings, we are stupid simple, tribal creatures at the same time? This answer doesn't cut it because it's not exciting, it's not exotic, and it spits in the face of who we think we are. Our attention spans have no tolerance for it. What we're all victims of, in my eyes, is our humanity. It's not always a sinister reason. Sometimes it's a natural reason. But the natural, in so many ways, is what human beings have fought against while striving for an evolved civilization. It's natural for us to feel hate, to feel rage, to feel discriminatory feelings, ethnocentrism, irrationality. This is human. Unfortunately, those of us in our respective cultural bubbles tend to think ourselves more human than the humans belonging to the other bubbles. What we have going on in this American climate is achieve victory for your team at any cost. If the leader of your team is exhibiting qualities contrary to your core beliefs, just use your rationalizing muscles to ease that dissonance. Or don't use any mental muscles at all. Put your head down, accept it, because your team must be the victor at any moral cost. Also because that other team is just so bad. To win against dirty, you gotta fight dirty. And that's where we are. This is more or less the unspoken conclusion in many of our minds. And in so many ways, that's where we've always been. What makes it intolerable now is that we have millions of people in this country whose standards of decency are much higher than those in power. Many of us, if not most, care about equity. We care about the environment. We care about helping civilization move forward, not backwards. So how do we encourage moving forward? The solution to me is just as boring. I found that something magical happens inside us when we admit our shortcomings. A major part of you begins to want to do something about it. There is something of a psychological immune system which kicks in upon being brutally honest about one's flaws. And on the flip side, there's often massive tension and unease when you're on the fence about it or willfully indifferent towards it. Groups of humans trying to win against other groups of humans is a story as old as history itself. But playing this game, to me, seems fruitless and dangerous, as we see now. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, what's happening at this moment, where no questions get answered straightforwardly, name-calling is an acceptable form of conversational currency, and being entertained is far more nourishing than seeing actual issues be solved. What's happening at this moment is us as descendants of all kinds of heroic, future-changing figures and martyrs. We're taking 5 steps back, 10 steps back from progress every time these kinds of things go unchallenged. I know what it's like to want to win. Many of my conversations in the past weren't conversations at all. It was me wanting to win. I chalk this up to a lack of wisdom and to immaturity. And if you accept that, what the hell does that say about our leaders, about our representatives? What does that say about us? That we tolerate this. Choose honesty, even if it makes you so uncomfortable that you can't sit still. Choose honesty. We look at the person on the blue team and the red team as if they were a different species. This isn't the case. what's making us so starkly different is a stubbornness and closed-mindedness that harkens back to the worst of our predecessors. We can't regress. We can't afford to. And with that, I'd like to say thank you for listening. And whether you're on the blue team, the red team, or no team, I hope that we can all continue to grow together and to strive for a collaborative, harmonious society.